All right guys, here we are on day 5. And if you don't remember, at the end of day 4, we kind of were staining with a color that neither I nor the homeowner was a big fan of. And we had a lot of issues with the vinyl rails. So today, we're gonna see if we can get these rails sanded down, apply 2 coats of stain to the areas that are gonna be covered by the screen, make a good advancement on the siding on the ends of the new structure, finish off the shingles, and if we have time, let's get these new vinyl rails in. So let's just jump right into it and get this thing going. The point we're trying to reach with the stain is to properly get as much of the rails covered as we can, so that way the staining is at a minimal after the screen is installed. We obviously don't want a bunch of stain over the screen because it will, with those small holes, kind of fill and just attach itself. It actually dry just right there on the nylon screen. So we'll do this about 2 times, and after this is cured completely, then we'll do a once over check over and make sure that everything's good. We're gonna have to get a list of materials together. We're gonna pick up some board and batten siding, some aluminum trim coil, some 1x6s for the fascias and soffits, and some center vent soffit on the outside to match the rest of the existing home. So we've got a few things to get. We'll make a list right now, and they can bring us that along with the brake. That will be a big help in bending the metal that we need around the outside, so we can see if we can make this thing waterproof before the storm comes in tomorrow. This is our Tapco Pro 19, 10-foot metal bender, and it does good with thinner metals, stuff up to about 24, 26 gauge metal. If you look right here on the brake itself, there's about 5 examples of different types of fascias and coverings that we do. Real cool machine. It bends metal nice and clean. You can do 90-degree angles. You can do 45-degree angles, pretty much anything from 0 to 90. How it all goes down. That's some J channel. Go get our 1x6. We're pretty much ready to rock and roll. Pass this over about 2 or 3 times to actually cut the metal. And that actually cuts it. That smooth coil metal just scratches really easy. But I just used that just because that's what he had on the rest of the house. You like that? Good right there? So that should butt up against the shingles. See what I'm saying? One thing you gotta look out for when you bend metal, if you can kind of look down this edge here, I don't know how well you can see it or not, but you'll notice that here on this end, it's almost perfectly 90 degrees square up, but then as you get to the center, it's kind of leaning out a little bit. And then as you work yourself back towards this side, it's perfectly square again. So the brake is not bending the metal to the same exact position along the entire 10-foot span. So what we have to do is we have to bend that middle until the furthest most point is at 90 degrees, which is our center section right here, which we're finally at 90 degrees, but it's bent the ends a little too far in. So we just take our hand and rub this right here nice and slow, work it out until it's back about 90 degrees. Same thing on this side here. So every brake has its own little area where it might be a little tighter versus not so tight. So you just got to make sure that furthest point is bent to a good 90 degree, and then press the other sides out to get them back to where it needs to be. This is a really cool part about the bend here, because we have our 45-degree bend that you can kind of see where it's coming down here. So now when we put the counter bend back at 45 degrees, I'll come right on up. And when it finishes out, to know that you're in a good spot, it's just exactly flat. So if this piece here is sitting relatively flat with our table, then we've countered it back just far enough to be perfectly perpendicular with our fascia boards. Once we put the soffit up there, this will finish off just like this. Nice and neat, just like that. You see what I mean? It's a little thick on that side over there. Well, once I nail that in, it'll look right nice. So we have a double bend that you'll notice that we were doing on the break over there. And the reason we do that is, if we create a double bend, it really helps this sheet of metal from becoming wavy. If we just, for example, just ran a straight piece, this metal would, you know, with the heat and the cooling down process every single day, would become extremely wavy. And this just creates a little bit of resistance and a pattern for the metal to follow that will prevent that from happening. So we have a nice straight finish with no buckles. And also these nail heads on these lower portions that are going to be exposed, we don't hammer those all the way in. We leave the head just a little bit out and allow that metal to expand and contract, and it'll create that nice finish. Now these nails up here, the upper portion will be covered up from the J channel on the side and that goes above. But we're going to put these pieces on here first. And again, you can see this little gap, being it has that bend on there, it's actually not touching the wood. So we're just going to tighten that up to it and let that be exposed just like that. And that looks really, really good. Whoever thought about green snips, red snips, and yellow snips, they made a killing. They don't have to work for the rest of their life. The green ones are for cutting from the left-hand side. The red ones are for cutting from the right-hand side. So this has one straight edge, and there's a little extra. This blade's so wide by the time you get in there. So the greens are good for cutting from left to right. The reds are good from cutting from right to left, and the yellow ones cut perfectly straight lines. Yes! Is that so gorgeous, or is that so gorgeous? Oh, that lip just goes right in there. Water's gonna run right out into the channel and just away from the house. Oh, that's so nice. So you can see here that I cut a little angle here, but I did not remove the lower lip. Instead of removing the lip, we bend that down, and when I install it into this J channel here, it will let me lock in, and that lip will kind of grab onto the other J channel there, if you will, and let that water come right down the J channel and off that tongue and right into the other J channel, which drains right out of the roof. Stain looks semi-decent on one coat, but it just needs to be a little thicker. That pressure-treated lumber just isn't really receptive until it dries out a little bit. You just cannot lock it in right now. It's just got too much chemical in it. It's not going to receive. But if we let it sit for about 3 to 4 weeks, in about 3 to 4 weeks, it'll start to get a gray patina on the outside of it, and that's when you know it's ready for stain. All right, they're going to start some vinyl siding, and I'm going to finish up the fronts up here. So we kind of just put a little cut right here. We left this as one piece here in the corner. Just cut a straight cut, and then on one side of it you cut a 45 and a relief cut on the back side of the J channel, and you can just bend it around, and it makes a perfect little 45 cut and grabs onto itself, lets us tack it into this outside edge right here, and then we will simply just slide the soffits inside here and tack them to the underneath side of the 1x6 fascia. After that, they kind of just sit in here on this side, and we will wrap our metal to come around and encase the soffit, which will help give that protection against the wind. So we're just going to slide it right here into this channel, slide it back all the way into the starting point of the other J channel that we put on, and we simply just raise this up here and tack it off with the same nails that we're using on the white soffit. And that is literally it. You can put 2 in each one, Doesn't necessarily need that, but it does not hurt. Don't even set that nail all the way, it's not necessary. And this is a really cool thing about the side. You slide that right in, hook right onto the next piece, and then you're off to the races. You're doing the same thing again. Just really want to make sure that this fascia, or this soffit rather, does not stick out past this fascia board. It will create some wrinkles and some bubbles in your fascia metal. So it's always better to be in 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch, especially being that we have that 1 inch bend down here in the bottom. It'll easily cover that up. So it's like I said, it's a lot better to be 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch in than even a 1/16 out. We got a little cool thing we do here. And behind this 1x6, you can kind of see that we have a nice gap right here. And that's because behind this 1x6, we install a rip that's about 2.5 inches. And I do that so it'll create a cavity, and our actual siding install can go all the way up in there until it reaches that other board underneath. And it doesn't create a need for caulking or a J-channel. A lot of times you'll see people do remodels or siding after the house is built and whatnot, and they don't do any fascia work, and they'll just butt some siding on it and it'll call it brand new. Well, the problem with that is when you have this fascia, if you would kind of imagine this fascia just stuck right to this plywood, well then we would have a J-channel right under there, and the actual water could come down and kind of go right in that crack. As soon as the caulking, and believe it or not, a lot of times I've seen they just simply don't caulk it at all. Albeit not a drastic amount of water gets in there, but water does get in there over time, over and over and over again. And the longer it lasts, or the longer it happens, the worse it gets. So to avoid that completely, I create this gap here so that way by the time the siding goes all the way up and the PVC metal goes on the outside here, when the rain comes down, it completely falls off the metal, goes over top of the siding, which is over top of this metal, and out to where it's supposed to go. We're not dependent on J-channel, we're not dependent on caulking, and we're 100% waterproof. And that is a good way to do your siding. Well, how in the Sam Hill do we get it in there? That ain't how it goes.
What's the other side?
Let's just do some cuts real quick.
Sure, you want to do some cuts first?
Yeah. Let's make it difficult. There's so many different rail styles now, and they all have their own patents on the connectors and stuff that they have to find new ways to do things so that they're not, I guess, breaching the copyrights that other people have on their stuff. You can screw these bottom two, but you can't screw the top two.
Well, maybe you don't need to.
I guess it's universal so you can flip it over. We really need a center support. Even though it's got that aluminum backer in there, it could get a little droopy on us. You know, once we get one of these rail sections done, because it's an adjustment process every time you get a new brand of rail in from somewhere. Once we get through one set, the next few following after that should be a lot easier to install. We'll figure out all the quirks and the whatever you want to call them between these next two pieces, and then we should be good to go after that. Let's see what we have here. Oh, and now my metal can't move. All right. Now let's see how this goes. I guess that's going to predetermine our measurement down at the bottom, so we don't have to worry about that. We can just slide the ends in, Chip. You got the ends already?
Yeah, I got everything right here. These got to go on first.
Oh boy.
Remember about that?
Yeah, you about to screw us up. Oh my God, we got to take the whole thing out. Like I say, you're about to screw us up. All right, let's go right there. All right, all right.
Gotta lock her in just a little bit.
Oh, that's all right, bud. I can live with that. I can live with that. Let's go. Time to get on your horse, bud. Hold it, just hold it down, Chip. Let him keep going.
I've been holding it down my whole life.
That's right. All right. I like that. got one more day left, hopefully. We've got a lot of loose ends to tighten up, but I think it's about one more day. It's Friday. We're ready to go. We'll catch you guys later on the next one. Have a good day. Wee, that was hot. Hot like fire.